Hi, I'm Tim and you're watching another video on Mr. Tim Tech's YouTube channel. In the previous video that I released, it's the one before this release video, I installed and set up Grandstream's GWN Manager on Grandstream's GWN.Cloud web service. Now, for those of you that don't like using cloud services, for example, I prefer not to myself actually, as much as possible if I can, then there's an alternative to having your Grandstream's network manager to manage all of your devices in the cloud, but there's an alternative. You can actually run it yourself on a local virtual machine. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to install the virtual machine. Obviously, I can't go into details because the video would be hours and hours long if I showed you how to install it on every virtual machine host. So what we're going to be doing in this video is I thought I'd show you how to install GWN Manager on a Synology NAS running the virtual machine manager. Now, the virtual machine manager is the one actually provided by Synology in their app store. So it's easy to use, easy to set up, and it gets your Grandstream GWN Manager up and running in no time at all. So firstly, what we need to do is from the Grandstream website that you can see I've got on the screen here, we need to download the OVA, which is a virtual machine file. So to do this, what we need to do is click on Support, then select Tools, and this will take you to the Tools website section on the Grandstream. So scroll down and you will see GWN Tools, and there will be a GWN Discovery Tool, GWN Manager, and there'll be documentation as well. So they provide full documentation for running GWN Manager on a Alma Linux version 9, a CentOS 7, and also for Ubuntu. But for each of those Linux versions, they provide OVA format files, which contains not only the operating system, but also the actual Grandstream GWN Manager files in there. So in this video, I'm going to be choosing the Ubuntu one because it's a popular Linux operating system. So next to for Ubuntu, you'll see we have version 1.1.28.10. This is the latest Ubuntu version. And we also have the OVA format file, and that's the same version 1.1.28.10 at the time of recording this video. So what you need to do is just click on the OVA format for Ubuntu. You can use actually Alma Linux or CentOS 7 should you wish. We're going to be downloading the OVA format file for Ubuntu. So we'll click on this, and as you can see, we're presented with a Save As window. So what we'll do is download GWN Manager version 1.1.28.10 _ Ubuntu, and we'll save it in my downloads folder, as you can see here. So just click Save. Then what we can do, we don't need the Grandstream website open anymore, so we can close that. And as you'll see, my computer is now downloading the GWN Manager OVA file. As you can see, it's got 1 minute left. I'm on a 900 megabits per second internet connection, so it's not taking too long. Now, as you can see, we've now got the OVA file downloaded. So we'll just close that downloads window. And now you can see that I'm logged into my Synology NAS, where we're going to be installing the virtual machine. So in Synology NAS, as I said, they have a virtual machine manager, and as you can see, I've already gone ahead and installed that. But if you want to do that, you just go open up the package center. In the search bar at the top of that window, type in virtual machine, press enter, and as you'll see, it brings up packages for Virtual Machine Manager and also Virtual here. So what you need to do is just click, you'll have a download button instead of an open button, by the way. just click download, and your virtual machine manager will then show up in the installed list of packages. So once you've done that, you can put a shortcut on the desktop as well. So what I've done here is the same thing. So open up Virtual Machine Manager, and you'll see that the host is healthy and I've got no virtual machines running. So what you might need to do is set up the Virtual Machine Manager settings in there when you first open it, but that's easy enough to do. Just follow the prompts and everything. So what we need to do is import the OVA file. So to do this, click on Virtual Machine at the left hand side. Then, as you can see, I've already got GWN Manager in there. So we'll just ignore that for the time being. Yours will probably be empty if you've just installed Virtual Machine Manager for the first time. So what you need to do is on the Create button, you'll see the little arrow at the side of that. Click on that little arrow and then select the Import option. Then you'll see some options appear in the window on screen, and you'll have a selection which is already highlighted for import from OVA files. So that's what we need to import from an OVA file. So click Next. Then in the selection box, you need to say where you want to find the OVA file. So I would just select a file from Synology NAS if it's stored on your Synology NAS, which mine is. Or if it's on another computer, select upload from a file from PC. So you can either select that option or select from NAS. So I'm selecting from NAS, click browse, then from my downloads folder, I'm selecting the GWN Manager OVA file that we've just downloaded. So click select, and then you should have the file location in one of those boxes. Click Next. Then it's saying to select storage. Yours may or may not present this option, but depending on how many hard drives you have in your NAS. So I'm just selecting first volume and clicking Next. Then for the Configure General Specifications, under Name, you need to give your virtual machine a name. So in this case, I'm going to call it GWN space Manager and then space and number 1. So it's GWN Manager number 1. You can call it anything you want. Under CPUs, you need to select how many CPUs you want to allocate to this virtual machine. Now, depending on the specifications of your Synology NAS, you just need to pick as many CPUs as you think you can allocate to this without slowing down your Synology NAS machine too much. So it all depends on how many services you're running on your Synology NAS as well. So in this case, I'm going to be selecting 4 CPUs, and they recommend that you choose at least 4 gigabytes of memory to run your GWN Manager. So I'm leaving it as 4 gigabytes, although I do have 16 gigabytes in my Synology NAS, but I'm leaving it as 4 so as not to take too many resources from the actual Synology NAS. So under video card, you can leave that as VGA. Under virtual machine priority, you can leave that as normal. And then under the description box, you can type in any description that refers to your virtual machine so that you know what it is. For example, this is an optional box, so I'm just going to leave it blank. So once you've selected those options, click Next. And then it will ask you for storage. So what it's doing is allocating so much of your storage on your NAS to the virtual machine. So for GWN Manager, I'm leaving this as 100 gigabytes, but obviously you might need to reduce it, or if you can increase it if you've got spare storage capacity on your NAS. So I'll leave it as 100 gigabytes, and then I'll click Next. Then for the Configure Network, so we'll leave the network as default VM network. So what this will do is use the network that's already in your network card. So once you've left that as default VM network, just click on next. For the ISO file for boot up, leave this as unmounted, and for the additional ISO file, leave this also as unmounted. For auto start, I would change this to yes, because you want your GWN Manager to automatically start whenever you restart or shut down and restart your Synology NAS. So it will then automatically load and run GWN Manager. So under firmware, leave that as legacy BIOS, which is the recommended option. And for keyboard layout, leave these as default. So in my case, it's set to English for Great Britain. So whichever region you're in, your keyboard layout will be different. So just leave it as default for your region. For virtual USB controller, we can leave this as disabled, as we shouldn't need to use that, but we can always enable that option later on should you require it. So once you've done that, click next. Then select the users that you want to allow to access this virtual machine. So in my case, I'm just selecting allow on this one user. The other users are for shared resources, so I don't need to grant access to those, but tick the users that you want to allow to access your virtual machine. So once you've selected your users, click next. Then you'll be presented with a summary box, and once you've got the summary box up there, you can just click done. Now you'll see we have for GWN Manager 1, it's saying it's now importing the virtual machine. So it's giving you a percentage there. So we just wait for it to import it. And by the way, most of the options and settings, what you've already just set in there, can be changed later on if necessary. So you can increase the CPU resources and RAM resource that you've allocated to the virtual machine, or you can reduce it. So as you can see, we've now got GWN Manager 1, and it's saying status powered off. So what we need to do is start up the virtual machine. So make sure you've highlighted in blue, so you've got a blue line on the virtual machine that you want to start, and in this case it's GWN Manager 1, which we named it just a short while ago. So what we'll do now is click power on. Now you'll see it's saying status preparing. So what we're going to do is click connect, so that we open up a new window, and it should open up and load the virtual machine. So it's connecting to the virtual machine remotely, so it should appear here shortly. When you're first doing this, it might take a while for the virtual machine to be set up and installed and run properly, but it should only take a while initially. Once you've first created the machine, in future you should be able to just run it a lot quicker, and it will load a lot quicker. So as you can see, we're now presented with GWN Manager, and we have welcome to GWN Manager. Login name by default is GWN, and the initial login password is GWN in capital letters, and then it's an underscore and then manager with a capital M. So what we'll do is just click the enter key to get to the login prompt, and then we'll type in GWN as the username. This is default for all of the OVA files from Grandstream for GWN Manager, so yours will actually be the same login and the same password. So then we'll type in password, so capital G, capital W, capital N, underscore, capital M, ANAGER, and then press enter. And as you can see, we're now logged into GWN Manager for the command line, and we've got usage options there, so we can type in, for example, /GWN/GWN and then space status, and then press enter. And as you can see, it's saying Nginx listening port, and it's got the IP address there of our GWN Manager. So as you can see, the access URL is https://192.168.1.206 and then a :8443. So to access GWN Manager on your network via a web page, what you would need to do is in the address bar at the top, type in the IP address that it's showing under access URL, and then you need to enter a :, and then port number 8443. Now your IP address will be different. It might possibly be the same, but I doubt it because it's a DHCP enabled IP address, so it's random. So just make a note of that access URL. So make a note that the https:// and then the 192 IP address part and then a : and 8443. So just make a note of that on a piece of paper. Then what we need to do is type in logout, and then you'll be prompted and taken back to the GWN Manager login page for the command line. So now that we've installed GWN Manager, we can go and access it via the web interface. So open up a new tab in your internet browser. In the address bar at the top, you need to type in https:// and then the IP address which we've just noted down on a piece of paper. In this case it was 192.168.1.206 and then it was a : and then the port number is 8443. Now to confirm, the port number 8443 will be the same on your machine. It's just the IP address that may well be different. So once you've typed in the https:// IP address, then a : then 8443, you can press enter. Now this might take a few seconds initially to load the page, but you should then be presented with your connection is not private or some similar message. What you need to do is just bypass this. So in this case I'm clicking advanced and then proceed. So it's okay to proceed to this web page. This will then take you to welcome to use GWN Manager. So this confirms that GWN Manager is up and running on your virtual machine on your local network. So it's not running in the cloud, it's just running on your local network, so you don't have to worry about cloud security if you're worried about those sorts of things. So what we need to do to initially set up GWN Manager is click Start. Then for the general options, these options are actually similar to the cloud service, very similar if not the same. So we'll just go through the 5 general options here. So in this case I'm selecting by country, which is United Kingdom, and then I'm selecting the time zone, so just select your time zone and click the blue arrow to go forward. Then what we're going to do is create a user account to access GWN Manager with. So this is a different account to what the command line is. So in this case, in the username box I'll call this Mr. Tim Tech, and in the password box I'll click the little I symbol to show the characters, and in the password box we'll call it Mr. Tim Tech and click that again to show the 1, 2, 3 and then an exclamation mark. And in the same for confirm password, type your password in again. Now please make your password a lot more secure than this. This is just done for testing purposes, and I will be deleting the virtual machine after. In the email box you need to type in your email address. Please use a valid email address as this is used for password resets. So if you ever forget your password you would get a reset link sent to your email account. So I'll type in my email address, and then once you've done that, click in the blue arrow. So click the blue arrow to go forward. So here we are at the 3rd screen, which is adopt device. So what we'll do is put a tick next to the model number, which will then select our GWN 7813 switch and also our GWN 7665 access point. So then once you've done that, click the arrow to go forward. Then what we'll do is enter our first SSID. So we'll create our first SSID. We can only create one SSID here, but what we'll do when we get into GWN Manager and into the dashboard, we'll go ahead and add our additional second wireless network. So the first SSID, we'll call it 10G, and I'll just enter the wireless password. And once you've done that, click the blue arrow to go forward. This will then present you with a summary screen where it's confirming the settings. As you can see, we've got general, we've got user account, and then adopt devices. So we've got the 2 MAC addresses in there for our switch and wireless access point. And then if we scroll down a little, we've got our SSID configuration there. So once you've OK with that, click the blue arrow to confirm settings. This will then take you back to your GWN Manager login page. So we'll just click I agree to accept the cookies, and then what we'll do is paste in our GWN Manager username and password, and then we'll click sign in. And as you can see, we've got some blue boxes appeared on screen. This is just giving you an insight of what each section does. You can just click skip. Then this takes you into the dashboard, and as you can see, we've got a switch in there, one online and one access point online as well. The router does show 0 online and 0 offline, but this should change as we go ahead and configure everything. So what we'll do is go ahead and go in and add our second wireless network. So as you can see, we're highlighted with the settings, and this has a drop down menu option. So what we'll do is click on Wi-Fi. Then this will take you into the wireless LAN settings. And as you can see, we have our 10G wireless network, which is enabled. So what we'll do is click Add, which is the top left corner, and we'll add our second wireless network. So what we'll do from the basic settings is for Wi-Fi, we'll tick this, or click this rather, to change it blue to enable it, and then type in the name of our wireless network SSID. And in this case, we've already created 10G, so we'll call this one 10S. We'll leave the client IP assignment as bridge, and associated VLAN, leave that disabled, captive portal disabled. For the SSID band, what we'll do is click the drop down arrow, and I just want this to have 2.4 gigahertz. So we'll select 5 gigahertz, which will then remove it from the SSID band list here. So we've just got 2.4 gigahertz. So once you've done that, click out of the box. Then select access security. For security type, you can leave that as personal. And then what we need to do is for WPA pre-shared key, we need to type in the password that we use to access that wireless network. And then for the WPA mode, I'm going to change it to WPA3, as all my devices support WPA3. If your devices don't support WPA3, then what you can do is either select WPA2 or WPA2 and WPA3, which will cover then both of those devices. Should you add WPA3 devices in the future, then if you select WPA2 and 3, it will cover both of those. But I'm just selecting WPA3. Then for access control, we'll leave all those settings as default, so we can ignore that. So then we'll click down to device assignment, and again we'll just leave that all as default. Then we'll click for advanced, and as you can see, we've got options in there, and again we'll just leave those all as default. So what we'll do then is click save, and this has created our second wireless LAN. As you can see, we've now got 2. For the first wireless LAN that we created on the initial setup screen, what I want to do is go in and change the settings. So what we'll do is click the gear icon next to that for 10G. And what I'm going to do is change the SSID band and remove 2.4 gigahertz so that it just broadcasts in the 5 gigahertz band. So now that we've changed the SSID band, we'll go to access security, and change the WPA mode again to WPA3. Then once you've done that, click Save. Then what we'll do, we'll click on Global Radio Settings, and under General we'll leave band steering as Disable Band Steering and all the other options as default. For 2.4G, what we'll do is change the channel number. You can of course leave this as automatic, so just leave this as default if you so wish, but I prefer to choose a specific channel number. So I'm going to be choosing channel width of 20 megahertz, which is already set. And then for the custom channel, I'm going to be clicking the arrow and selecting channel 9 and remove channel 6 and remove channel 1. So it's just broadcast on channel 9. So I'll also remove channel 11 as well. So as you can see, we've now got custom channel as channel 9, radio power set to high, so we'll leave that all as default. And then what we'll do is click on 5G, and what I'll do is change the channel width to 40 megahertz, leave the channel as auto, and then for the custom channel what we'll do is untick common channels and then highlight DFS channels but don't tick it, and then what we'll do is go in and select channel 100, so it's just broadcast on channel 100 for our 5 gigahertz. You can leave all the other settings as they are. 6G, you can also, if you want, set your channel width and channel numbers in there, but I'm not using 6G at the moment, so I'll leave that as default. So when you've done that, just click Save, and this should say Save Successfully at the top. So once you've done that, you can go back to the top of the screen and collapse the global radio settings. Then for mesh, you can see that's disabled at the moment, so we'll just leave that as it is. Now that we've set up our wireless networks, we'll go back to our dashboard, and what we'll do is go into our router directly and set up the internet connection. So we'll open up a new tab and type in the IP address of our router, which by default is 192.168.80.1, and click enter. Then what we'll do is enter our default username, which by factory default is called admin for the username, and the password you will find on the label on the bottom of the device, which is unique to each Grandstream device. So then click sign in. As you can see, we've got an X near the WAN 1 connection, so what we'll do is go and set up our WAN connection. So to do this, select network settings to pull the drop down menu and select WAN. Now as you can see, we've got 2 WAN connections set up. We don't need WAN 2, so we can actually delete that by clicking the trash or bin icon to delete it, and then click confirm to delete it. Then for WAN 1, for port 11, we'll click the little blue box symbol with a pen in it to go ahead and set up the information. So WAN name, we'll call it WAN 1 as default, and select the port where your internet connection is connected into, and in my case it is actually port 11. So connection type, my connection is PPPoE, but yours may be different, so you'll just have to find this out from your internet service provider. Some maybe obtain IP automatically by DHCP, some may be static IP, so enter the IP manually, or then some have internet access with PPPoE, which is what mine is. So I'll type in my PPPoE account details, and of course my PPPoE password, and under the tracking IP address 1 we'll leave that as default, which is the Google DNS address of 8.8.8.8. For VLAN tag, I need to enable this option. You may or may not, depending if your internet service provider gives you a VLAN port number. In my case it's VLAN port number 911. And then just before we save it, we'll go back to static DNS and I'll select this option and I'll put in my preferred DNS servers. In my case, I'm using 1.1.1.1, and then for the alternative DNS server 1.0.0.1, which are the Cloudflare DNS servers. So now that I've done that, I'll click save, and now you can see the IPv4 status is saying connecting. So we'll just wait a few moments and it should hopefully connect. And as you can see, we've got IPv4 status now as connected, and we've got an IPv4 address listed in there. So that means it's successfully connected to the internet. So now what we'll do is go to LAN. So we'll click on LAN at the left hand side. And as you can see, we've got the default LAN in there and the default IP address, which is the IP address of our router, which we're logged into at the moment. So now that we've set up our WAN connection and it's saying connected, we'll go back to the Overview tab and click on Overview. And as you can see, we've now got an internet connection there. So now that we've done that, we'll click on the admin name at the top right corner and select Logout. Then we'll close that tab and we're going back to the GWN Manager tab, which we left open a moment ago, and just click refresh to refresh the page and then select devices. And as you can see, we've now got two devices listed in there. So that's for our access point and switch. And you can see the firmware versions we're running, device group, uptime, IP addresses and MAC addresses and so on. So now that we've done that, what we can do is adopt our GWN 7003 router into our GWN Manager. Now to do this, what you need to do is click on Adopt under this device screen, and you should have your router appearing in there. And as you can see, we've got Adopt Device and we've got one more device to be adopted. So we'll just put a tick next to this and click OK. So with that pop-up box saying the current network has existing SSIDs, assign these SSIDs to the newly added router, just click on Assign. Then it should say Result Success and the MAC address of the GWN 7003 router. So click OK. Now as you see, we've got 3 devices listed in there. So all of our devices are listed. So we've got our access point, our switch and our router. So this means that now these are all being managed by our GWN Manager virtual machine running on our Synology NAS. So what we'll do, just click on Dashboard. And as you can see, we've now got one router online, one switch online and one access point online. We currently don't have any clients, but these will be populated in due course once a few hours or days has passed by, and then these graphs should also be updated with information as well. So now from the dashboard, what we can do is click on Clients, and this will provide you with the list of clients that are currently connected to your network. Of course, this will actually populate itself with more devices as time goes on and as devices connect and reconnect to your network. So as you can see, we just have the Espressive and DBEL01. This is my door chime and also the doorbell for Unify as well. So now from the dashboard, what we'll do is go and set up our LAN. So to do this, from the settings menu at the left hand side, under Wi-Fi, which we've just previously accessed to set up our wireless networks, you need to click on LAN. So with LAN selected, you'll see that we have a default LAN in there with VLAN ID 1. What we need to do is click on the gear or cog icon under the operation. Then under the gateway, what we need to do is select where our gateway will be. And in this case, we'll select router and GWN 7003. And then in the gateway IPv4 address, what we'll do is enter the IP address of our GWN 7003 router, which is 192.168.80.1, and then in the prefix length enter 24. For the DHCP service, we will have DHCP server, so leave that option as it is, and then under the IPv4 address pool we'll type in 192.168.80.10, and then in the second box 192.168.80.254. So this gives a vast range from IP address 10 to 254 for our DHCP clients when they connect to our network. Under preferred DNS server, we'll enter 192.168.80.1, which is the IP address of our router. So it will also be our DNS server. So we'll leave that for IPv6. I'm not going to be using this on my network, but if you want to use this, you can enable this option and enter details of IPv6, DHCP addresses, etc. So I'll leave that as disabled and just click Save. As you can see, we've now got the information for our default LAN with the gateway and the gateway IPv4 address in there as well. Then what we'll do is move down to Internet, and what we'll do is enter our Internet information again. Because this is previously set up in our router, we just need to enable it here in GWN Manager and select the WAN name as WAN1, which is what we set up in the router. The router will be set by default to the MAC address of your router. To confirm this, you can click the drop down box, and as you can see, it's confirmed that it's set that. Physical port, you need to select the port number where your internet connection is connected to on your router. Connection type, we'll set this as PPPoE again. Enter the PPPoE account details, which is, and so just enter the account details and password that are provided by your internet service provider and what you also put in your router just a moment ago when we went in and configured that. Again, we're selecting static DNS, so I'll put in my static DNS addresses 1.1.1.1 and alternate 1.0.0.1. These are Cloudflare's DNS servers. Everything else we'll leave that as it is apart from a VLAN tag, so we'll just enter the VLAN tag provided by my internet provider, which is 911 and which we previously entered in the router. So once we've done that, click Save. So now you can see we've got information saying connect duration, WAN health and so on. So that bar will populate as time goes on. So now that we've set up our internet connection here in our GWN Manager, we'll go back to the dashboard by clicking Dashboard at the left hand side. And as you can see, we've now got some more information in there, in our graphs and so on. And what we'll do is now click on Clients and see if that's been populated. And as you can see, it's been populated a lot more with more devices now that we've set up our LAN and WAN connections in GWN Manager here. So what we'll do to view more clients here is select 200 per page, and this shows all of the 200 clients, should I have 200 clients that is, on this same page. So that completes basic setup of GWN Manager. In future episodes, what I'll do is go into details, as I keep saying, about firewall rules, creating VLANs and other settings and so on. So I hope you found this video useful. Keep a lookout, there's more videos are coming soon. Thanks for watching, take care, look after yourself, bye for now.